One word can end a life before it begins. Sociopath. Patric Gagné heard it at 8, not as a threat, as a dare. She spent the next 30 years dissecting the human operating system most of us run on instinct, reverse engineering empathy, hacking conscience, rewriting the code from the inside. In this video, you'll follow her exact path, the childhood void, the adult experiments, the hard-won tools she built to close the gap, and you'll walk away with something practical. A blueprint for auditioning your own identity, spotting the labels you never asked for, and deciding which ones you keep. Her verdict on the label? Starting line, not finish. Stay. The next few minutes will change how you define human and how you steer your own. Patric's earliest memories aren't of misbehavior, they are of confusion. A teacher scolds her. Every child around flinches, cries, apologizes. Patric feels nothing. Not guilt, not embarrassment, just a quiet, curious blankness. She realized early, shame was a language she didn't speak. And because the world reacts to shame, she learned to perform emotions like lines in a play. She writes in her memoir that she had emotions: anger, joy, fear, sadness. But the social ones, like guilt and empathy, were missing or muted. So she learned to observe, imitate, and hide. That was the first shock, not just realizing she was different, but realizing the world expected her not to be. In Adolescence, Patric didn't break rules because she lacked a conscience. She broke them because she lacked a reaction. She describes a compulsion to feel something, anything, because the nothingness was unbearable. Stealing cars, breaking into homes, not from anger, but from curiosity, from wanting to know what adrenaline felt like. I did bad things to make the nothingness go away, she later wrote. But even then, she created her own moral boundaries, never hurt anyone. Beneath the rebellion wasn't chaos. A young woman trying to map her humanity from the outside in. After years of questions and internal battles, a psychologist finally named what she'd been living: antisocial personality disorder, or as the world prefers to call it, sociopathy. Patric describes it not as evil, but as an emotional learning disorder, a brain that processes feelings differently. When she heard the diagnosis, she expected relief. Instead, she got a label that nearly swallowed her whole. But then, her therapist said something that shifted everything. You are not dangerous. You are emotionally different. For the first time, she felt seen, not condemned. Patric didn't believe she could love. Movies told her love was about butterflies, about tears, about surrender. She felt none of those things, only loyalty, logic, clarity. Then she met someone who didn't ask her to feel like everyone else. He accepted that she loved through choice, through commitment. She realized love doesn't have to be overwhelming to be real. It can be deliberate. It can be chosen every day. Most people study psychology to understand others. Patric studied it to understand herself. She wasn't afraid of a diagnosis. She was fascinated by it. She wanted to know, can someone who doesn't feel shame still choose to be good? Her research led her to an astonishing truth. Shame doesn't create morality, values do. She didn't rely on emotional impulse to act ethically. She relied on logic, structure, and conscious choice. That realization became her freedom. She could live morally even without the emotions others believed necessary for goodness. Writing Sociopath was an act of rebellion, an act of vulnerability, an act of humanity. She admitted to manipulation, deceit, and emotional detachment, but also to growth, awareness, and love. She wrote it for the ones who live in silence, who feel different and are punished for it. Now that you've walked through her journey, what can we take from it? Here are 3 revelations on identity that Patric's life lays bare. Truth for anyone who has ever felt misunderstood. Revelation 1. Identity isn't what you feel, it is what you do. Patric didn't feel the social emotions that guide most people. She didn't have the gut punch of guilt or the easy bloom of empathy, but she chose moral action anyway. When she realized her emotions wouldn't lead her toward right, she built her own compass. She told herself, "Don't hurt people." That decision, not a feeling but a value, became her proof of humanity. We often define ourselves by our emotions. Patric teaches us to define ourselves by our choices. Revelation 2. Difference does not mean defect. From childhood, her difference isolated her. Teachers called her strange. Therapists used words like broken. But over time, she discovered that difference was simply another language, her brain's unique way of processing the world. Not every sociopath is violent or cruel. Some are quiet, thoughtful, devoted parents, partners, and thinkers. Patric's life reminds us that not fitting the emotional template doesn't mean you lack depth. It means your depth looks different. Her defects became her doctorate. Her pain became her profession. Her otherness became her offering. Revelation 3. Labels don't lock you in. Your response to them does. Sociopath was meant to silence her, to cast her as the villain. Instead, she turned it into a mirror, one the world could finally look into without fear. She didn't run from the label, she studied it, deconstructed it, and redefined it. And in doing so, she gave others permission to name their own shadows and still find light inside them. Her life asks us, what label have you accepted without question? What difference have you mistaken for a flaw? What if your story isn't about escaping who you are, but rewriting what it means? Patric Gagné's story forces us to rethink everything. A lack of shame does not mean a lack of humanity. A label does not decide a destiny. And you are not defined by what you feel, but by what you choose. If her journey moved you, read Sociopath, a memoir, and join the conversation about what it truly means to be human. Complex, imperfect, but still capable of good.